My challenge to you is to not just listen, but to actualize the meaning of your life by taking the steps you need to take right now.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good afternoon, Dov Baron. Previously, episode 612 of the 12-Minute Convos podcast. It's been just 3 years, 17 days, 15 hours, 45 minutes since we last had that recorded conversation.
Stay curious, my friends. Stay curious. Your life is far bigger, far greater than anything you previously imagined.
That was then. This is now. Dov, how are you doing today?
I'm good, mate. I'm excellent. Thank you. I'm excited about my day ahead of me. It's all going to be pretty awesome. We got a lot of cool things going on. So I'm excited to be here with you and hopefully add some real value.
I appreciate that. Well, the last time we spoke, you were writing books and speaking. And of course, the 1994 was one of the things that we touched on, but more so that experience didn't change things as much as living life normally is what really brought to reality what was going on. So please give us an update. What's going on? What's new?
I'm still speaking. I'm still writing books. I'm still working privately with high-level clients. So all those kinds of things are still going on, but I'm just doing more of it and bigger. As I think you know, I have the number one podcast in the world for Fortune 500 listeners called Leadership and Loyalty. On top of that, I have a new book. We have a new digital program called All at Once that will be released. In February, we released my brand new podcast called Curiosity Bites. In April, we have my new book coming out, and we're in the midst of a rebrand. So a couple of things going on.
It's fascinating what you're doing, incorporating technology at the ripe young age that you're at. I was fascinated.
You are a comedian, mate.
You told me you were going to be 59 the following February, so that puts you 2017. So it means you've crossed the 60. Oh, yeah. And you sound as though you're 35. And you're interacting with a medium that is supposedly for the young, right?
I don't know. I think as a leader, if you don't adapt, you die. It's very simple. And by that, I don't mean physically die, but you die in a context of relevance. And you have to stay relevant with every generation. And so my clients range in quite literally from being in their 70s all the way down to being in their very early 20s. So the people I work with are, they're very high-level individuals who are striving for a deeper connection to the meaning of their life and the meaning of their business and how to turn that into a practical action that they can use. And, I will use whatever mechanism I can to help them to do that.
And it's important to those that are listening to understand that when you do sign up for this, you do sign up to do what's necessary to get the word out. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think that's a great point, Engel. I mean, people have so many limitations and parameters that they put on themselves and say, well, I'd like to do that, but. Oh, the but is just stuff you made up. But's not real. The but's not real. The technology that I use every single day that would have seemed impossible to me as little as 10 years ago. And there's other things that I technically am challenged with. And you know what? I can get help with some of those things. I can have people build those things or do those things for me. So the thing is, you use what resources you have, but you have to understand the bottom line is if you're here to serve, you have to find a way to serve. That's it. You don't get to make excuses.
Now, there are 3 children in the mix that were born of your loins, if you would, right? Everything that you've been doing, what is the effect it has had on them?
Many and varied, I'm sure. They're all at different stages of their lives. They're all doing different things, but they all understand that the most important thing in your life is to live a life of meaning. And that is not determined by me or by anybody else. It is you have to determine the life of meaning. And we live a life of success. We live in a first world that focuses all of our attention on success. And we know we've made it because we're successful. But, in my work, one of the things I got to realize very quickly was that a lot of very successful people were also very miserable people. Now, please understand, it's not exclusive to very successful people. There's a lot of very miserable people who have no success. But the successful people who are miserable get to a point of going, okay, I'm buying more stuff but I'm not any happier. What has to happen? And then they speak with me, and I show them how to get connected to their root cause, to find the purpose, to find the thing that is what we call their primary driver, so they can bring meaning into practical action to create a legacy. And that, my kids, have a conversation with me. That's always where we go back to.
Let's come back to what you spoke about, and it speaks to the truth that you've been living in, understanding that you've continued in that, which is integrity with yourself. How important have you seen that be now that it's been a couple of years since we last spoke? Integrity with yourself.
There is only integrity with yourself. People would like to tell you that they're integral, but if you're not integral with yourself, there is no integrity. I don't care what you say. So you say, well, there is, because when I say I'll do this, I do it. And I go, that's great. How do you feel about it? Because there's an integrity with your emotional state too. You did it, but you're filled with resentment. Okay, you did it. You look integral in the world, but you're not integral, because integrity means whole. It means complete. It means in alignment. So my heart, my soul, my mind, and my action all have to match. That's why we say it's about meaning into practical action. You have to be in integrity between all of those things.
One of your experiences with that fall is coming face to face with death. Now that did happen, how do you interact with the conversation of the possibility that you could die today or tomorrow? Or is it something you put on the back shelf?
I don't think there's too many people, unless they're pretty morbid, who like to think too much about their death. In fact, one of the flaws of the human condition is we love to think of our immortality. We don't like to think about the fact that we're going to pass. And I live my life on two ends of that spectrum, which is that on one end that I must be dynamically alive in this moment, because I could be no longer here in the next. So it's on either end of that spectrum. So I understand that my life matters in this moment. And as much as I get caught up in, just like everybody else, the next moment and what I need to achieve and what I need to be doing, my question becomes, am I present in this moment? Because listen, just because you have a heartbeat doesn't mean you're alive. There are many people, I used to say, I see dead people, they're everywhere. And what I mean by that is that there are people who are living a life, but they're not present in it. They have a heartbeat, they move around, but they're not actually present in their own lives. And if you just stop for a moment right now, as you are listening to this, just stop and be silent for 3 seconds. Are you ready? Now, what did you notice? Did you notice that your head was noisy? Did you notice that you maybe started thinking about, was something happened? Did the sound go away? What happened? Did you notice that your head rambled off onto some other tangent altogether? Did you notice that you had to check your phone or felt the urge to check your phone? What happened? And the more you check in on that, and I would give you that exercise. To do that, give yourself 3 seconds silence 3, 4, 5 times a day. I mean, it's not a lot, right? Just a few seconds each day. And just stop and do that and ask yourself, could I be in the silence? When you get to a place where you actually notice, well, I could be in that silence. I didn't think about anything. I was just present with it. Then increase 3 seconds to 5 and then 5 to 10 and just see how you can go. And then notice when you're with somebody, when they're speaking, can you be silent for 3 seconds while they speak? Because we listen with the intent to reply instead of the intent to hear. But if you listen with silence and the intent to hear, and then you don't reply immediately, but you take a second, not only is that more compassionate, not only is that more engaging and more thoughtful, but it's also more soulful. It's not your head that's reacting. It's your connection to yourself. It's your integrity with who you are in being fully alive and living a life of meaning and representing that meaning in the world in a very practical way.
It's a beautiful place to be. I remember you said something like the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And I think the imagery that comes up sometimes is that it's a physical space where you enter and there's this cave, of course, and you enter. The space within our minds is that space that many fear. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, I think people are terrified to enter into that space. But as you just said, it's not a physical space at all. It is a psychological space. Campbell used it as a representation, using the example as a physical representation, because that's how we best understand it. But the truth is, it's not a physical space. It's the ability to be fully present with what's going on. And oftentimes that's terrifying. That dark cave that we fear entering is that 3 seconds of silence I just mentioned. So, for me, the answer comes to asking yourself this question. In this moment, what is it I'm fearing? And when you get that answer, you ask, is that real in this moment? And if it is real in this moment, was it real in the last, and will it be real in the next?
Tell me about the woman that supports you.
My beloved queen is, my wife and I have been together for almost 22 years. She is the greatest gift of my life. The best thing I ever did was ask her to marry me, and greatest gift is she said yes. Everything about my life got better when she said yes. My wife is driven. She's purpose-driven. She is connected to what it is we do and why we do it. She is my business partner as well as my life partner. And as I said, she's just the greatest gift of my life.
Well, my friend, it's a great pleasure, I'll tell you, to have the opportunity to check back in after 3 years and to hear that you've not given up on what you said you would go after, which is to ensure that who you are was represented as your brand of. So I do appreciate that. It's both motivational and inspirational for me and those that are listening. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. The only thing I would say to you is this, listen, I know that you're listening to these podcasts, and very often podcasts are in the background. They're not something we're present with, and it's exactly back to what I've been talking about. So this is a 12-minute podcast. Can you go back, play it again, and turn off the distractions? Not wait for an email to ping or a text to ping or something else, but actually be with it. And take a note or two and just notice what you learned, what you got. Then ask yourself this question. What am I going to do with that? Because information is with the hole in the donut. Transformation is when you do the application of the information. So that is when you reach a place you start to actualize and you try to create a transcendence of who you are. You're going from being transactional leadership in your own life to transcendent leadership in your own life and in the lives of others. So stop, take some time and actually take this in. And then if you want, I would suggest that you write to me, write to both of us. It's okay. You can CC me. My email address is dov@dovbaron.com, dov@dovbaron.com. Tell us what you got out of this and what you're going to do with it. And if there's some way I can serve you, then you can ask me that too. I'm happy to do that. That's why I'm here. But my challenge to you is to not just listen, but to actualize the meaning of your life by taking the steps you need to take right now.
Again, amazing audience. That's Dov Baron. Thank you, my friend, for being on what is inspired by 12-minute convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by Pod Edits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.